There are four words that women almost they freeze when they hear them. You have breast cancer. It is one of the most shocking diagnoses and often sometimes preventable if you get a mammogram, if you get tested. But so many women in our communities across this country do not go get the diagnostic tests that are required so that you know your breast health. Well, my guest today had such an experience. She walked into a doctor and heard those words, "You have breast cancer." And hers was the triple negative kind. And she'll explain what that is. And that's often found among African American women. I actually have a couple friends who were diagnosed with that same type of breast cancer. But she didn't allow, and thank God she survived it, this diagnosis to stop her. Instead, she allowed it to motivate her to pay it forward and help other women who have been or may be diagnosed with this illness. So, we're going to talk to what I call, I don't want to, it almost sounds cliche, a breast cancer warrior, because when you hear that term, I think it kind of gets overused. You know, we see the pink ribbons and everyone is excited, and the marketing campaign is so huge around breast cancer. But I really wanted to use today's show, this episode of the Suzette Speaks show, to paint a picture so that you can hear firsthand what it's like to hear those words and what that process is like, so we are not afraid if we or someone we love has to face some kind of similar circumstance. But what's most important to me is how her story is going now, what she's doing, so that others who have this same fate, the same journey, can also have diagnostic tools that they need so that they don't catch it too late is really what we're going to talk about. So today's topic, y'all, welcome, hit the like button, why don't you, is my breast cancer survival story. And I have a very special guest with me. Y'all welcome up. She has a very short time today, but y'all welcome to the Suzette Speaks show. I'm grateful that she said yes. I saw her, y'all, from a clip on The View. You know, in social media, they circulate clips, and I saw her, and I was like, woo, South Florida lady of my, Miami stomping ground too. I was like, yeah, let's go. Would love to highlight her work. So without further ado, please welcome to the Suzette Speaks show, Miss Angela R. Taylor, the founder of ARTfullAngels. How are you, Angela?
I'm very well. Thank you so much, Suzette, for having me.
Thank you. I got a little tongue tied because I'm thinking about all of the different places I want to go with this interview. Forgive me, y'all. I'm but human. But yeah, there's so
That's
many
right.
people I know who have walked in your shoes. I
Mhm.
have not. But I want to hear what it was like. So before we get into your story, can you just introduce yourself and tell the people who you are?
Absolutely. And thank you again. So I'm Angela Taylor. Um, Most of my friends and family affectionately know me as Angie. By the way, I am a mother, I'm a sister, I am a bonus mom, I'm a widow,
Hmm.
um, I'm a thriver and I'm a survivor and I'm an advocate. And
Wow.
I'm a friend. I'm girlfriend. I'm girlfriend. That's what,
Love it.
like, that's what I am. I'm girlfriend.
So I'm so happy that you said yes. This is from an Instagram DM, y'all. And sometimes you don't know why you end up crossing paths with people, but I'm grateful to kind of allow folks who are on my channel, y'all hit the like button as you come in. And Team Replay, shout out to you. If you're watching on Facebook, welcome, as well as everyone on YouTube. I want people to hear, what your story kind of entails. So let's take us from the beginning. How did it start?
Absolutely. I had just turned 50. At the time, I had a boyfriend, and we had just come back from a miraculous trip. And I was home from the trip here in South Florida, and I was doing a self breast exam. And I was like 4 months shy behind of having my annual mammogram. And I work in healthcare. There was really no excuse, right? I speak about this all the time. It was just life stuff. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It wasn't anything else. No fear, none of that. It was just life stuff. And so I was 4 months behind on getting the annual, and I feel this lump in the back of my right breast, and I realized it had never been there before. And so I had gone back to work. God had it so that I ran into my primary care in the hallway. I mean,
Mm.
like the planning of the steps. And so I was, I need to see you. I need to see you. So she took me over to her office that same day, and she felt it. And then she looked up in my chart and she was like, you're a little behind 4 months on the annual. And I said, yeah, no, it's just a busy season and so on and so forth. And she said, well, let's get it done right away. So
Mm-hmm.
the very next day I had my mammogram scheduled, and I also had an ultrasound. They saw something on the x-ray. I kind of could see like the technician's face because, by law, they can't tell you anything.
Yeah.
So
I'll
the
be
very
asking them though, the people that do the
Oh
diagnosis.
yeah,
I'm
I'll be
like,
asking too.
you see
Absolutely.
anything?
Yeah,
You
you see
see
something? What you see? Does that look right? You gotta advocate,
They're
right?
not supposed to tell you. The doctor is supposed to tell you, but I'm
Yes.
always like, I won't tell. Tell me what you see. Is everything
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Anything abnormal? Um,
Yes.
and so the very next day it was scheduled for a biopsy. Now I want to say I had never had a biopsy in my life throughout my whole body, Suzette. And so I had no idea of what to experience, what I was going to feel. I was nervous going into the biopsy the next day, and I had the biopsy, and I'm laying on the table, and they gave me a squeegee bowl, and the radiology assistant, she was just like, take a couple of deep breaths. We're going to numb the breast
Mm-hmm.
first, and then she said we're going to do the insert of the specimen, and the floodgates just came like,
Start crying.
I mean, like it this is not a story. This
Yeah.
is my story.
Yeah.
Uh, it just happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
And the floodgates just streamed through my face. And I took a couple of deep breaths, and all I remember hearing was a psh. It's like this sound. Sounds resonate in my head. And it was this psh. And it took the specimen. I remember feeling as if I could not grasp my mind to get back to work. It was 8 a.m. in the morning appointment for the biopsy. I felt it best just to go home, like collect my thoughts and just stay present with just
Mm-hmm.
as much positive vibe as possible. And then the very next day, that was on a Thursday, they did tell me that, or they asked me rather, when I was having the biopsy, the radiologist asked me, she was like, Angela, we'll know tomorrow if this is a malignant carcinoma or not. We won't know the stage, but we will know if it's malignant. Would you like to know? It's a Friday. Do you want to like have this, carry this through the weekend? And I told her I did. I appreciate the call. She would do. So I get back to work, and I got a call about 8:15, and the first words were, Angela, I'm sorry, you have breast cancer. I was numb. I didn't cry. I was just numb. It took me back to the time that I lost my husband, and the doctors had called me and told me that he was brain dead. That's another story for another
Oh, girl, I can't even imagine. So
day.
your life is flashing before your eyes, kind of moment.
Yes.
You're crying like I'm gonna die. I see my death, like that kind of moment.
Yes. It
Oh
was the moment of uncertainty. You know what I mean? It's the moment of you realizing, okay, maybe as you think you have all your affairs in order, things flash before your eyes, and you're
there's
like,
an end date. There's something,
yes,
yeah. You're like,
yes,
okay, wait, I don't have all
yes,
the time in the world.
yes.
Y'all her thank you, RM. Thank you everybody watching. I see you guys in the chat. Thank you for dropping her information. Miss Angela R. Taylor is the founder of Artful, Artful Angels. It's an organization we're going to talk about in just a moment. But I want you guys to understand her story and kind of why she's doing the work she's doing now. So when I think about that moment, and I think about, okay, you go from from vacation, yay, wait, there's a
Mhm.
lump, wait, I need to go see my primary. Okay, you see something. Thanks, the mammogram came back. We have to biopsy it. That's like 48 hours, and then by that Friday, you're getting the news that it's cancer. So when you hear the C word again, it's something that everyone who has to have that has had that diagnosis will tell you it is almost like, ooh, it is a blow that it's hard to explain. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So do you call your mom? Like, what's your next move? Like when somebody tells you something like that, like you about to start chemo, tomorrow or
Yeah,
Monday or
yeah.
whatever it is, and your husband has passed. So what's your reaction? Do you go in the park? Do you scream at God? Are you yelling at
Mhm.
your pillow? Like, what is your reaction in the moment after that?
Well, after the numbness wore off, the radiologist, she asked me to get a piece of paper and a pen and to write these things down. And she said, pray. She said, breast cancer surgeon. And then she said, oncologist, and in that particular order. So, what I did next was I picked up the phone. I called my sister. My mom had died like 9 months before. And
Wow.
yeah, very suddenly. And I had my dad, and I had my sister, and I had my children. But I
Yes.
called my dad and I called my sister, and they resided in Maryland. I'm from Maryland,
Okay.
Baltimore, Maryland, originally.
Okay. Be more. Let's go.
Yay, 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 yay. So I called my dad and I called my sister, and my sister's the type of person, she's always been in like the financial type of arena, retirement setting, so on and so forth. So when I called her, I was just like, sis, I told you like all the life insurance policies. And she was like, I'm not hearing this. I am not hearing this. You're going to get through this. I was like, no, 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 no. I believe that. I believe that. Don't get it twisted. I believe this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know where things are, the things I have in order, and thank God, like I did have like a will in order and all that kind of stuff. She said, however, it was just about dealing with the diagnosis and what was next. So
Mhm.
after speaking with a few women over that weekend, and I want to say we as people, particularly women, if they're more of a women audience here at Suzette Speaks,
Mhm. Mhm.
we need to be careful about whom we get information from, right? Um, you want to get information from people that have successfully gone through things.
Yep.
Even though I know at that moment, it's just like something you need to get off your chest. You want to speak about it. You want someone to not validate, but just,
Yeah, listen, like,
listen and
yeah,
reassure.
it's in the
Absolutely.
body and you need to get it out. I
Yes.
know that feeling
Yes.
very well. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But however, everyone you speak to that even has gone through that journey may not have gone through that journey very happily, very with positive
Yeah.
vibes, very
Right.
successfully, you know what I mean? And the depression that may have hit. And you already know the flags, but you want to talk to them anyway because they've gone through it. So you want to know how they went through it. Everybody don't go through it
And they
peacefully.
speaking all kinds of stuff over you, and
Yeah.
the attitude of kind of like defeat
Yes.
comes from
Yes.
them, and that word, I'm talking about just even in goals and dreams, can have
Yes.
such a poisonous effect. So I can imagine when it comes to health diagnosis, what you're saying
Yes.
is so powerful and so important that no matter what, you gotta be careful who you talk to about your illness,
Right.
about your business, as we say,
Right.
because indirectly it will affect that mindset and belief. And the
Yes.
mind is so powerful when it
Yes.
comes to
Exactly.
healing. So
Absolutely.
I can imagine you wanted like pick up the phone and call everybody. Y'all don't call everybody.
Right.
You have to share it very selectively. So you did so. You shared it with those
Yes.
who were most, the closest folks to you so that they can understand what you were dealing with.
Yes.
How do they react? I know sis was like, well,
Yeah.
let's talk
She.
money. You're like, what? I know here's my passwords. I mean, a lot of people when they got COVID, like went through that, was like, here's my passwords, here's my bank
Yeah.
account, here's
Yeah.
all.
Death
People were
sentence.
really, very afraid. So
Yes.
was it fear that drove you at the moment, or was it practicality, or how would you
It was
describe
more.
your
It was
emotion?
more practicality.
Okay.
It wasn't. I knew this was not until death. I knew I was going to make it through. And again, I became selective of who I started asking questions.
Yeah.
Okay, who is your plastic surgeon? Who is your breast surgeon? And I was told to get like 3 opinions. After the second opinion, let me tell you something. When you first walk in with any kind of illness that is death threatening, it becomes want, 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 want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like you're not retaining anything anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm writing at that time, I'm writing down things on a little binder that I had bought. And I'm trying to and I used to say to the doctors, break this down to me in terms that I can understand. Not, I mean, I work in the medical field, but I am not a clinician. I
Right.
am administrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I just needed to understand what was going on and what was their recommendation. And after two appointments with two different recommendations, I decided to trust in a particular physician. And he happened to be a male.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked him specific questions, Suzette. I asked him, like, how many breasts did he remove? And then what was his success rate? Like, I was just like, I'm
Yeah,
serious.
it's
He was
super
like,
important. I
absolutely.
think sometimes, and until something like this really hits you, or you know somebody close who has dealt with this, a lot of times our identity as women, relating to our breast, relating to that indicator of femininity, fertility, of you just womanhood in general, we are not really aware how much that part of our body kind of has meaning to us. So
Right.
the prospect of it being removed, and I want to ask you about the triple negative piece.
Mhm.
Let me forget of completely, like, that's a decision in and of itself that you're like, wait a minute, I have to do this medically to survive, but your mind is not even really quite fully aware yet of how it's going to impact you on a psychological, emotional, spiritual level after it happens. So you go straight into that mode. I'm gonna have to go to the surgeon. I do my homework, y'all. You hear this? So ask a couple. You don't need to ask 20, but ask a few people.
Mhm.
And I think prayerfully, as well as do that research, ask, for recommendations, etc. You find someone, happens to be a man who has experience. Did you see pictures in a book of what breasts look like, or how does that work?
He had it on a website.
Okay,
Um,
like
Now,
before and
but he's a
after.
surgeon. He was
Mm.
not the plastic surgeon.
So we're just
He,
removing it, not
yes,
necessarily kind of giving you the aesthetics of
yes,
a breast
absolutely.
after.
The after,
Okay.
right?
So you go through this. Can we talk about time period? So
Absolutely.
between locating it, the lump, finding out what it is,
Mhm.
and then getting into surgery, how long of a time period was that?
Absolutely. July 6, 2017 is the day that I was diagnosed. I went into chemotherapy very aggressively by my choice. I started July 22nd. It was not a game. It was not a game.
Wow.
I had a calendar. I was Xing off every time I went. The first four sessions were the hardest in the matter of the type of chemotherapy that I had. It was something called adriamycin. They call it the red devil in the cancer world.
Mm,
It really puts you on your back. You're, to my knowledge, only allowed to have it like every 2 weeks because it is like so harsh. And
right.
then I started the regular weekly treatment of total of 4 drips. My chemo was from every Thursday. I got there around 12 and I left like 4:30.
Mm,
So those 4 bags, it took a while to drip.
mm. I
Uh,
can't even imagine as you sit there and as you receive chemo. And you guys, if you don't know, chemo is almost like as harsh as the treatment is almost as harsh as like what it's trying to treat. It can
Absolutely.
have so many side effects. It makes you can talk about what are some of the side effects you experience from chemo?
Absolutely. Numbness. My toenails fell off. My nails fell off. I still wanted to feel like a lady. Sex drive was erratic. My brain thoughts were totally like to the left. Chemo has something called it gives you memory loss, short-term memory loss. I think I still suffer from now, and I'm almost 5 years in. Um, it also took away the taste of my mouth as far as food. I call it metal mouth. Um, Everything tastes like I had dirty coins in my mouth. And it was during the holidays, and that was challenging.
Wow.
I lost a lot of weight.
Hmm.
I lost 30 pounds, and I'm 5'9", always
Hmm.
been kind of slanky, up and
Tall.
down.
Yes.
But I had nice breasts. Originally,
Mm.
I had nice breasts. I was almost a D,
Mm.
and I love my breasts, but they just failed me, And I
Mm.
and I came to accept and to terms with that. It was just a part of my body that failed me. Um,
So I'm
uh,
curious if I may
mhm,
jump in.
sure.
Did you anyone else in your family ever get diagnosed with breast cancer?
Oh yeah, that's a long story. That's another
So
show.
you
Both
have other people in with it
both
who have
grandmothers. both,
Both grandmas had it?
both.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
genetically speaking, what does the triple negative breast cancer mean? What does that diagnosis mean?
well, triple negative is a type of breast cancer that it's like a house. It doesn't fight off estrogen. It doesn't fight off progesterone, and it doesn't fight off HER2. So um, HER2 positive, HER2 negative is very common
Hmm.
in women and
Hmm.
men.
Hmm.
Triple negative is the most aggressive form of breast cancer, and the best way to treat triple negative is through
Hmm.
chemotherapy and then surgery.
Okay.
This is the recommendations.
Yeah, my friend's sister and aunt had triple negative. They both had to have breast removed.
Mhm.
Her aunt survived. Her sister did not. And she got preemptive mastectomies. So never got diagnosed, but I mean there was too many people in her family who had it, and her breasts were very big and dense, as they are called.
Yes,
So she did it preemptively. And I
right.
thought, wow, how brave, how crazy, how like it takes a lot to say as a woman, I'm going to remove my breast for my life in case like something like this has happened to me. Watching her sister pass away, I think
Right, right.
was ultimately very traumatic. So you got 4 weeks of chemo,
No, I had 5 months.
5 months. I'm sorry. So you
That's
were
okay.
telling me what you got on the weekly basis.
Yes, on a weekly basis, on every
Five
Thursday.
months.
Five
So were
months.
you able to work at any of that time?
I did. I did. I lived
You went
alone
to
at the
work?
time. Oh yeah, I went to work every day. Every day. Because Suzette, if I did not work and I lived here by myself at that time, because
Yeah.
I
You
I
get
made a
depressed.
decision to
Okay.
move down here, South Florida from Maryland. I had like just started the next chapter of my life, like a year and a half prior to telling this story.
Ah,
And I knew that if I stayed in here, that the mind was going to start to ravel in my
yeah.
head, talk to me, which would inhibit my body and tell me that I'm not going to make this. And so by working, obviously, it took the everyday. I mean, not that I didn't come home, because I came home every day and I allowed myself 8 minutes to cry. I gave myself permission. I
Mm.
call it give yourself the permission.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's important, at
Well,
least for me.
listen, I had a good ball earlier. I had talked to my therapist earlier, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I had to sit. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
And we all need it. We all
yeah,
need to exhale every now and
absolutely.
then because there's so much that gets built up again in the body, and we
Mhm.
don't get a chance to kind of express it.
Right,
And sometimes you don't know where it comes from, and sometimes you
right,
don't need a reason.
right,
It is just what it is, what your body feels.
right,
So men and women need that.
right.
So you gave yourself permission. You went to work. I can imagine being tired. That's why I was wondering if you were
Yeah,
physically capable. Was more my intent in that
yes.
question. But so you went to kind of keep your spirits up. Were you different at work?
I was. I was different in the aspect of a mindset. I didn't want people coming up to me feeling sorry.
You told
After
them. You told
I
them.
did, I said,
Mhm.
"Don't ask me how I'm doing. Just talk to me like you regularly talk to Angela. Like you like." What's
Yeah.
up, my girl? And cuss at me like I'm still in the same, in a fun way. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
For anybody sanctified, holy fire, because I am Christian. But talk to me, treat me the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I need
hard
to feel
because
normal.
most people are like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right,
I don't want
right,
to like, trigger anything with her." And
right.
there's so many people cheering for you here. Brenda says, "Hey, Brenda, wow, you are a fighter. You dove headfirst based on how aggressive your concern was. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know if you missed a word here, Brenda, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Dove in head
I
first
did. I
to
did.
try to save her own life. And that is a big decision. I think a lot of people, Doug said he can't cry unless he lost somebody close. Well, I need one good cry a month. I'm telling you that right now because even if it's me by myself, I'm like,
That
like
cleanse.
again, exactly. Life
Yeah,
gets stressful. Things
it
that you wish you
does.
had said, things that somebody did to offend you that you didn't address, things that you couldn't address. All kinds of
Exactly.
stuff happens to you. We have all these little microaggressions, as they say, now in the workplace and other places. And just so there are things that kind of again affect the spirit and the body and the
Yeah.
mind, and
Yeah.
that you just need to kind of just get out.
Yes.
So what was your, did you have a deeper spiritual practice? You mentioned that you were a Christian. Did you eat differently? Like, I know sometimes people go on these holistic kind of changes in terms of their diet. What other coping mechanisms? Did you go to therapy? Like, how did you cope? So you went to work,
Mhm.
yes, and I'm
Yeah.
sure like you came home and probably was conked out
Yes.
afterwards.
I
But
was.
what did you do to help sustain your spirit, sustain your mind?
Um, just to circle back, I just tried my best to place myself around positive people, even my family. There's
Mhm.
certain people during my journey I cut off
Wow.
because it became too toxic. And at that moment, the only thing at that moment, not to be selfish, but mattered was me, was Angela. Like I
Mhm.
was fighting. So I always say, you have to put yourself first in order to be the best you could be for. I had to be the best I could be for Christian and Alyssa. That's my children's names,
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though they were grown, I wanted to be around, but I wanted to be the best person that I could be for myself. So I had to remove
Yeah.
certain people
Negativity.
out of my life. And, and,
Mhm.
and, and so I did, like I stated, I gave myself permission. I went to my oncologist a few times and I said, I need help. I needed help with support. I needed help with eating. I gained a medical marijuana card
Mhm.
just to help me absorb food because there were times that I had diarrhea, constipation at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, I craved salt. It was crazy. So, talking about the diet part, yes, I did do my best to like remove pork, things like that. However, if I wanted bacon,
You gonna
I
eat
had bacon. I
it.
ain't cut myself short for nothing,
Yes.
nobody. If
Yes.
that's what I wanted, that's what I wanted. And I
I think
felt
that's
like everything I
important.
was going through, I was just going to be the best I could be for myself.
That's important.
Yes.
Did you get outside support from your church or anything like this?
I got outside support from a nonprofit here in South Florida called the Gilda's Club.
Mm.
Yes, it's a huge huge cancer organization,
Yes.
developed by Gilda Radnor, who was a Saturday Night Live back in New York comedian, and she passed of ovarian cancer back like in the 80s, and so she was going through therapy, and her therapist after her passing, after she died, her therapist and her husband started the Gilda's Club. And it was a great support
Mhm.
system at that
Mhm.
time, what I needed, because I was centered around people that got it, like
Right.
they could understand
Yes.
because we were,
Yeah.
we were losing something, right?
Right. Right.
And or in the fight of our lives. The only thing that was a little different at that time for me was the fact that I was encompassed with people in the support group that weren't just there for breast cancer. So you
Okay. So
had
it was a wider variety of cancers
right
or diagnoses.
colon, pancreatic, and
I think that actually might be helpful because I think
yes.
sometimes, and I want to ask you about that. Sometimes I've read articles in the past about folks saying there's like an infantilization of breast cancer patients, the teddy bears, the coloring books, things like this that are, again, childlike, as if a grown woman who has a breast cancer diagnosis needs comfort, but it almost seems age inappropriate. Did you find that people tried to baby you or in a way comfort you that wasn't really fitting?
Um, at times, I just felt like people, like you stated a little few minutes back, sometimes people didn't know what to say, and that's totally human, reaction. And
Mm,
people ask me now, as an advocate, what do I do? And I said, just be there.
yeah.
Just even text. I'm here. Whatever you need, I'm here. And that's what I desired at the time. And when I've gotten better, Suzette. I'm 55 now. I've gotten better as I have evolved in my life, like
Mhm.
with taking off the pride, because I'm a proud, full black,
Yeah.
single mom for the most part. I
Yeah.
did share. I had a husband, but he wasn't the father of my children, even though he was an amazing leader to my children.
Mm.
But I carried this thing about like I've done this for 30 some years. I got this.
I'm the rock.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
asked me to rock, and I've had
yeah.
to be the rock because
But
it
you
is
can
what it is.
fall, you can
Yes,
stumble, you can
and there are
stumble.
times where even the rock, the
Yeah,
cornerstone, needs help. And I think sometimes
absolutely.
with us being that strong black woman, we
Yeah.
don't want to ask for help, and it's such a bad thing. It does us a disservice
Right.
where others really want to give and really want to help and really want to kind of pour into you.
Yes.
Shout out to everybody watching. Hit the like button. Yes, being present is so important. Reese, the Red Dragon, how are you? Good to see you, brother. Thank you, RM, again. Thank you, Doug, so much to my moderators for being here tonight. Y'all hit the like button. We're talking again to Miss Angela R.
Taylor.
Taylor. She's the founder of Artful Angels and Organization. So I want to get to so the process of you being from, did you remove the breast first or remove the lump?
No, I removed the breast. Everything had to go, Suzette.
So did you do double mastectomy or one?
Double.
So preemptively, you did a double mastectomy, taking off both of your breasts.
Everything. Areola, nipple, all. They could save nipples. I didn't want nothing.
Oh, okay. Again, I'm having like an emotional reaction, and that's not even me. So I can only imagine. And I think your computer might have fallen asleep. It's okay. So I can only imagine that process of like, we got to do this. It's not
Right.
even about aesthetic or anything like that. It is what it is to save my life. So then you do that first, then you do the 5 months of chemo. And then when do you find, tell me how do you get to the I no longer have cancer in my body stage?
Sure. Well, it was chemo first. So
Okay.
5 months of chemo. My chemo ended like around December 7th, 8th. I took a girls' trip. I asked my oncologist. I had a best friend celebrating in Punta Cana um, at a resort. And I really wanted to spend time. I just wanted to feel normal. And so we had a great time. She allowed me to fly, and we
Mm,
had a great time. And I gave my body like 2 weeks rest. My white blood count was depleted,
mhm,
and it happens to a lot of African Americans during chemotherapy.
mhm,
So I had to build up my white blood count. I never thought I liked beets in my life. I was eating beets like a crazy person. Of course, raw spinach, but I found out beets actually had more iron than spinach, and I was like, okay,
really?
yeah, it does.
I
Beets
may
has
need to
more
eat some more
iron.
beets. I need to eat more
Yeah.
beets. I have an anemia, so
Do you?
or at least
Okay, there
I'm
you go.
self-diagnosed. I don't think I really have it, but I have low iron. So I'm always like, when I start feeling tired, I know I have to start taking iron pills and stuff like that. So I
Yes,
will probably
yes,
hit beets.
yes.
Interesting. So you
Beets.
have to prepare your body
Yes,
after chemotherapy. So
correct.
you've been depleted
Essential.
of these essential protective white blood cells, and in
Yes.
order to build them back up, you need to take supplements
Supplements.
or change your diet. Um, wow. So you started to do that prep work to get on this trip.
Right.
Hmm.
And then I went into surgery on December 28th. I wanted to enjoy Christmas. My dad, my daughter had come down, planned, and my dad had intended to be with me during surgery, which was really weird. In the fact that this is the man that raised me all of my life. And I remember saying, and your viewers are gonna, anyway, it is what it is. It's my truth. I said to him, because they told me what was going to be expected after surgery. I was going to have drains. I
Right.
also elected to, just to share, I elected to have my breast removed, right? And then my plastic surgeon was on standby. So I had two doctors on that case.
Okay.
And my plastic surgeon was removing fat below my belly. It's called a DIEP flap. It's like a non-traditional tummy tuck. It's not like a straight line. It's zigzag
Mm-hmm.
cut. So they removed the fat from the bottom underneath my navel to build my breasts, and my breasts are now much smaller than which they were. Um, but moving forward, I lost so much blood during surgery. My surgery was supposed to be 8 hours. It ended up being 14 hours. I needed two blood transfusions because my white blood count was so low because of the chemo.
Mm.
So he had to stop. and it took like 40 minutes for a bag to fully process after blood transfusion or for blood transfusion. So my surgery was very lengthy.
So
I knew that.
I'm sorry, let me just make sure I understand. So the plan was the removal of the breast as
Yes,
well as do a replacement
yes, at the same time.
at the same. That's a lot. Not
Yeah,
saying you're wrong. I'm just saying on the body, it's a lot.
it
So you're
is.
removing completely both breasts,
Mhm.
taking a flap of fat from your bottom belly, and
Yes,
then positioning. And now, new doctor, plastic surgeon, come to shape it as in to make
yes,
it look like a breast. That's a
yes,
lot.
it
So
is a lot.
14 hours
Mhm.
is incredible,
Yeah.
and a lot. So was it kind of like, we got to wrap this up? She has to come out of this, comatose state. So was it the outcome that you wanted? I'll ask that.
It was. It was the
Okay.
best decision I could have ever made for myself.
Awesome.
And my testimony is my surgery was a walk in the park in comparison to 5 months of chemo. Chemo was hard. It was
Mm.
hard mentally. It was hard physically. Um, um, my body, thank God for the, I guess, the roots, the genes that I have. I healed pretty well, but
Mhm.
we have drains. They're called
Yes,
drains
the
after
shunts
surgery.
afterwards. So all
Yes,
the pus basically that your body is
yes,
producing has
yes,
to go somewhere. It's what
yes,
wants to leave the body. So you have an open kind of tube from
yes,
under where the scar tissue is to the outside world, and it's draining. It's constantly
yes.
draining. So
It's,
dad was there helping you change that, change those.
yeah, girl. And he helped to wipe. He
Dad,
helped to wipe the punani, and I was just like,
but
oh
he's
my
seeing you for you as a little girl, so he was.
yes, that's what he said. Like, did you meet him? That's exactly what he said.
It's
I
like
said, it's
daddy is
bigger
daddy
now.
at
It's
that
not the same size.
point. You're like, we're not supposed to be doing this at this age, but here we are. Oh my gosh. So I can only imagine him probably taking joy from that, being able to kind of nurse his baby girl yet again,
You
in a
did.
sense. Nurse in terms of nursing you to wellness.
Yes,
Wow, that's a very intimate, and then you should be very thankful,
I
right?
am.
To
I
have
am.
someone, mom was passed already. So
Yeah,
to have dad step into that role as well is a blessing.
it is a blessing.
Woo! So you
Yes.
get the shunts out. How long afterwards is the breast healed? The new
About
breast.
3 weeks. It was like
Okay.
3 weeks
Wow.
before the drains come out. And so I was home during that process. I stayed in the hospital for a total of 3 days. I came out New Year's Eve. I had the surgery on the 28th. I came out. It's standard when you have a deep flap that you're in the hospital and ICU. It's just standard. I wasn't like critical, but
No, but they have to watch it. They have to watch
yes,
it. That's major
absolutely.
surgery, guys. Sometimes we think, oh, plastic surgery. No, it's major
Major
surgery.
surgery.
Your body is kind of getting like, what in the heck just happened to me?
Yeah.
Kind of, oh, you
Yeah.
move this here and that. Is that,
Yeah.
do I reject this? Do I maintain this?
Yes.
Does it start to heal together, those flaps and stuff? It's very important. And people don't really, and I think my mom is a nurse, but understanding those processes, sometimes people are kind of like foreign to how the body heals itself and what it
Right.
really takes, that process. So you had to stay in ICU as normal protocol, come home, and then are you cancer free at that moment then?
I was. The
Mhm.
pathology report had come back. So during surgery, they did have to remove one lymph node. Just, he did it out of precaution. He said he did not see any sighting of it traveling, like the cell traveling up. As we know,
But you never
sometimes it's,
know.
yes,
Them
yes. So I
jokers be
said remove,
sneaky. Yes.
remove, remove.
So you did have what they would call malignant?
It was malignant prior to surgery.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
malignant means, guys, that it will spread. Benign,
yes.
you hope it always is benign, which is just kind of located in one spot, not
Right.
really prone to spreading. So she did have that triple negative, is a malignant cancer that will spread to other parts of your body. They find it in all over your um your body sometimes. So yes, sometimes even the lymph node on that same breast, you want to make sure. Even at sometimes I think when they biopsy, cells gotta move. I always say
Yes,
that, like
yes.
when they take the cells out, even though they put it in a little syringe,
Mhm.
even pulling it out opens
Yes,
the sac.
yes, it does.
It's like it's prone to spread just by you biopsying it. And from a relative, I was like, I've learned that. So you immediately say to yourself, I gotta help other people, or how does that come about after this harrowing experience where it's like, do you mentally, did you see a therapist during this? Did you just do the group or
I
did
just
you
did
see
the
a therapist?
support group. I did the
Okay.
support group.
Okay, so that was your group therapy, basically.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
yes.
So is it do you keep doing that? Is it like I go back to my normal life? I feel like I'm free again? What does that after surgery look like for you?
Well, I did realize that I needed more one-on-one therapy, so I did, and enroll into therapy, which has helped me. And during that time, I wanted. It was during chemo that, as I sat with these women for 4 hours, 4.5 hours, I saw all walks of life, all colors, and all ages. The youngest was 24 that was breastfeeding, a
A lot of
sister.
people get this diagnosis during pregnancy. It's kind of
Yes,
crazy. It's because your hormones are
yes,
moving and moving and
right,
yeah.
right, right.
So
So
I can
she's
imagine.
breastfeeding, 24 years old, and she finds a lump. And we went through the same. She actually started chemo like 3 weeks before I did. She's doing amazing. Like, we follow each other on Facebook.
Mm.
She's a diva. But I met these women, and we just, being there for 4.5 hours. I'm a conversationalist, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty optimistic. And we just had conversations about life.
Mhm.
And I always tell everyone, of course, as we all can attest, the only great thing that happened out of chemotherapy was the fact that I didn't have to wax. Okay. So
Sorry,
we,
guys.
that was it.
Keep it 100, though. Keep it
Yeah.
100.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure you have some audience members like, yeah, she's right. She's right. She's right. She's right. And God has a sense of humor, because
Yes.
even though, all the hair was gone,
Your eyebrows, your eyelashes, your head,
everything,
all your
toes,
hair,
fingernails, and
all
I'm,
hair on
I'm
your, yeah, all
everything,
gone.
everything,
Woo.
every piece of hair was gone.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And we're going to talk about your organization next. Brenda says, I love seeing when fathers, you got blessed. You had a good husband and a good dad. Love seeing fathers and husbands step in as caregivers. When I was a CNA, I love making sure they had everything because they never wanted me to overwork myself. That's fantastic. But yeah, thank God for caregivers because that
Absolutely.
is a role, again, that could be a whole show
Yes.
where people are unsung, really heroes
Hmm.
sacrificing almost self-sacrificial to help
Right.
somebody else, and people don't necessarily understand that journey. So I can only imagine. How long did he stay with you, like through recovery and then went back up?
He stayed for like a month and a half, but him and
Yeah.
my daughter. So I had people like come in to take care of me because I actually was out of work during the surgery. That's when I took
Mm.
off for 3 months.
Okay.
And they wanted me to remove my ovaries, and I actually waited a year later. I felt like my body had gone through so much turmoil.
So
So
the
that's because of
ovaries,
being BRCA positive.
are part,
Yes,
yeah, are part of the signals and the hormones that come from the
yes,
ovary may be telling your body or in overdrive, make these cells, make these cells, make these cells. So you
yes,
eventually did get the ovaries also removed.
yes, a year later.
Woo. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me how you birth Artful Angels.
Angels. So again, during chemo, I just had these relationships, these sisterhood with these women, and I knew I wanted to give back in some kind of way. I just didn't know in what capacity, and I was contemplating, like, okay, do I do care packages? Do I do support? And so during my journey of having breast cancer, I would go to the dry cleaners because I worked and I had my clothes clean. And so I used to go to the dry cleaners, and the dry cleaners up the street from my house. This woman has gotten to know me over the past 5 years. And so every time I come in, Miss Angela, she have my clothes, she knows my number. And her spirit, her aura was off that day, this one
Yeah.
particular day. And she had seen me rock wigs, no hair, scarves, all that kind of stuff, Suzette. And so I said to her, her name is Nikki. She knows I announced her on The View. And so I said, Nikki, is everything okay? And she said, yeah. And she gave me my clothes, and I just felt the need to hug her. I said, Nikki, give me a hug. I wanted to hug her, Suzette. Like, her floodgates just broke.
Start.
And
Yeah.
she said, I feel a lump. And this was in May. So this was months prior. I'm back at work. And she said, I feel a lump. And I said, okay, how long have you felt it? And she said, I'm not going to lie, a few months. And so she said, I just feel relieved just telling somebody. And I said, I understand. And I said, well, we're going to get a mammogram. And so she said, I don't have insurance. And I said, it's okay, I'm going to pay for it.
Wow.
And she said, Miss Taylor, I can't expect you to pay for it. And I said, no, I'm paying for it. This is what I want to do. So I went back to work. I scheduled her appointment, and she ran from me. She didn't show up for 2 appointments. Yeah.
Why?
I went back to the dry cleaners, like I gave her time. I went back to the dry cleaners, and I was like, Nikki, I made 2 appointments, and like I'm texting you and everything, and you're not showing. What's going on? Wanted to know if she was okay. And she told me she was too scared to know.
That's not uncommon, you know.
I
That's not
know.
uncommon.
I know. I know.
I know there's people that hide it until the cancer literally is pushing out of their skin.
Yes.
I know in Jamaica that's also something that you'll see.
Yes.
People don't want to. People are afraid. They'll pray and say the prayer going to take it away,
Yeah.
and the thing is like taking over their body. And until I'm talking about the cancer pushes through,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
can see it.
Yes. Even sometimes coming like out of their body.
Yes.
So I have Caribbean roots too. My mom was from Bahamas. And
oh,
so,
really? Cool.
Yes, I do understand. And I think it is not just a Caribbean. I think it is a human mentality.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for African American people, it is shunned upon to talk about stuff like this. If we speak about it, like we're putting it out there in the family. This is what we have. It may be a slight, and I can't say slight. It's embarrassment. It's like, okay, we're not claiming that, so we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, us with this claim is like, don't say it. And I'll even say that. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not guilty of.
I get it.
Don't call that on me. Don't call that over me. But
Right.
it is, we got to face a medical reality sometimes and say to ourselves, you know, God makes doctors, God make treatment plans. God is able to heal in many aspects and through many modalities, let's say. So when we're trying to run from the doctor is oftentimes the starting point for where God will do the miracle. God will do the healing. And so we have to kind of work with both prayer and medicine. I think sometimes, again, I've seen it destroy. I'm talking about breasts that, I was like, cancer smells.
Yes.
It reeks.
Yes.
I have an aunt that works in the breast cancer center over in Broward General. And she talks about, like, she does education. She used to do patient visits and certain things that she saw. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine in America people are dealing with this.
Right.
But the earlier the detection, the better. So tell me about Miss Nikki. How did you get her in to face reality and to get the mammogram?
I gave her space is what I did. I gave her space. I stopped pushing her and I let her come to me. And at that time, that's when it came to my spirit what I should be doing. So I filed a 501. It took some time. I know you are an attorney, Esquire. I did it on my own. I had some help, though.
Good for you.
It took some time. I was like, oh my God.
I actually have a nonprofit expert coming on December 3rd. Miss Tiffany is going to be talking about how to start a nonprofit. Okay. But you didn't know, Miss Tiffany. You did all that by yourself. Shout out to you.
I did.
Wow.
I did. So I did my exemption application, and then I formed my board, and I just kind of hit the pavement. I started with my church. I go to a pretty big church here in Miami Gardens, and I just started just going out in the community, in the backyard, I call it, and just talking about the importance of loving yourself, to make that time to get that checkup. Do your own self check. Men, get your colonoscopy, make sure your prostate, you peeing too much. It just all of us.
Urgency, frequency of going to the bathroom, all this. Go get just a general blood test, y'all, once a year.
Right.
Your blood test will tell you so many things. If anything is raised, if there's more lymphocytes or things that are, indicating that your body is trying to fight something,
Right.
you at least can start to, okay, why is that high? What I mean, there's so many things that are more preventable. And I see so many comments. Miss Brenda adds, it was scary when my doctor told me, let's get an ultrasound and a mammogram. Wait, doc, I'm only 26, January 2022. Definitely ran away from the pre-diagnosis. I came to the YouTube streets as I recovered. Wow.
Mhm.
She said, I can relate to her. I ran and never told anyone until my pain from the lump could not stop. That's all right. I know your camera's about to die. It's okay. For my pain from the lump could not stop. Then I had to tell my mom, and she held my hand going to my doctor's appointment. Y'all, this is again
Wow.
something that we run from.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brenda, for sharing
Absolutely.
that and being so vulnerable, because oftentimes many of us, again, we have what I don't know, again, the superwoman syndrome, the strong black woman kind of caricature that we're
Mhm.
playing, because a
Yeah.
lot of us really need the help. And especially when it comes like to something like this is not something that it is best to face alone, right?
Right.
Other
Right.
people have walked this path. You can lean into what their experiences are. So that way you get the best information. You don't make the same mistakes. You understand what the stakes are.
Yes.
And you get to kind of make these educated decisions as opposed to
Mhm.
decisions out of fear or of not wanting to know, or I don't want to die. Like, people get so desperate, and I can understand that. It is literally your life in the balance. But oftentimes, like I said, there are so many advocates like Miss Angela Taylor that are, unbeknownst to us from the community, know,
Right.
some of the stigmas and all the things that we have within our community and why people step away or are afraid. So now, did she find out? I want to know, did she find out it was
She
malignant or
did. It
benign?
took her like 5 months.
Woo, to go get it?
It took her 5 months. It did. It did. It did. It did. And actually, I helped someone before. Even so, after I formed the nonprofit, um, she wasn't my first. I called them my angels, and
Mm,
I called them my angels because it is a reward for me to do this, because it keeps me reminded of where God brought me from. You
wow.
know, and even for the women that are not diagnosed, they're still my angel clients.
My
And
goodness.
I try to, well, as soon as they contact me because they want the service, but for the free mammogram, I just reach out to them. I share my journey. I don't talk long, and ask them all the particulars about how long they felt it, or why they're prompted to do the mammogram. And then the next thing, I just schedule the appointment with the center that is try to make it conveniently located to them.
What a wonderful way to pay this forward. So does it matter if it's in Breast Cancer Awareness Month? Is it year round,
Year round.
open to
Year round.
anyone? Is there an economic? So your organization provides mammography free of charge, free mammograms for people. Is it like a economic requirement or anything like this?
No, but you do have to be uninsured.
Uninsured people. Okay.
Uninsured only,
Hmm.
21 years of age and up. And I am proud to say, um, I know this to be true. I am the only program in South Florida that provides mammograms to women 21 age of year and
Yeah.
up.
Wow.
Because
What's the
all
normal age they offer it?
40, 40,
That's
40
right.
for
That's right.
free programs, 40 years old,
Wow.
unless there is family history, and you have so much documentation that you have to do.
Yes. So
So,
okay. So I think it's because the medical establishment recommends mammograms at age 40. So
yes,
most
yes.
people don't start getting mammograms at age 40. But I know I had a college roommate had a lump and had to get chemo. Um, so yeah, you can be any age, and there are some very young women who get this diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So thank you for opening it up to even younger,
Yes.
because even though, yeah, especially if you have a history of it in your family, you got to be checking yourself, ladies.
Right.
You can go online, figure out how to do the self-exam. And you know what? I think even that young lady who I roomed with, it was her boyfriend that found the lump. And that
Wow.
often
Yeah.
happens, that the
Yeah.
spouse or the
Absolutely.
boyfriend is like, "Ooh, I feel something right here."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I see, and it becomes like, oh, it's a thing. Okay, let's get it checked out. But the earlier it's detected, the
The
better.
better.
So you knowing your breast, looking in the mirror visually, seeing if there are any
Right.
changes on your breast, on your nipples, anywhere around your breast, It is you have to be comfortable with your body and feeling your body,
Because you
and
know
not
your body.
exactly. And you
Mhm.
know if you start feeling any lumps, your glands,
Thyroid?
yes,
Yes. Yes.
thyroid, and
Hmm.
also your different glands under your arm. You feel a lump under your arm,
Yes.
your body's fighting something. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's cancer, but you definitely
Exactly.
want to pay attention and listen and act on, any type of change or discomfort. So I can just tell this work brings you so much joy. Part of me would be like, I would hate to relive it, but then it's a joy to relive it because you got on the other side. Hallelujah. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
saying it over and over is more of a testimony, as to, sis, you will survive this. Sis, this is not a
Not
death
to death.
sentence. Sis,
Yes.
and I can imagine how, especially for a lot of women, they hide it from their spouse and stuff. They hide it from
Yes.
the person, and to be able to say it out loud to you, as almost like, this is a thing
Yeah.
that I'm afraid of, and it's happening to me, and I don't know how to, approach it or deal with it or
Right.
process it. I can imagine
Right.
that's deep work you're doing, ma'am. So what I'd like for you to leave us with, and yes, y'all, oh yes, you have a okay, so you guys check out her, thank you, RM, her view spotlight. She was
Yes.
spotlighted. That's how I saw her. You talking about her Artful Angels organization here in South Florida, free mammograms 21 and up to uninsured women, right? So
Mhm.
you want to check it out and you want to support. If you can donate, do it. I think that's amazing. And I also read in your bio, and she's on Instagram. You guys follow her and all that great stuff. I read in your
Yes.
bio that you have is it a movie or a documentary?
No, I just do like we do segments. I call them cloaked by
Oh,
the ribbon conversations,
gotcha.
where we've done two so far, and they're with breast cancer survivors, and we just talk about our everyday struggles, hence post from chemotherapy, radiation. Some of the women I had not gone through, thank God, I didn't have to go through radiation, but we talk about our lives where we are today, how it has
Yeah.
affected us mentally, intimately, physically. All, I mean,
Oh,
we're
wow.
open book, you know.
So
So
that's important to know, because I think sometimes people feel like, "Oh, it's done and we made it."
no,
It's kind of like,
no,
no,
it's
there's an
not.
after.
It's
People
your
have
new
to
life.
really think about, life has changed. Your body,
Absolutely.
your mind,
Right.
every part of you has changed. And as you say, what they call chemo brain, and these things are like the residual effect. It's just not
Yes.
like you're just back to who you were. You
Right.
have to address, or you have to learn how to cope with certain changes, etc. So we're out of time. I'm actually over time with her, y'all. And thank you
Ah,
again, Brenda, saying thank you so much for sharing your story, Miss Taylor, and Suzette Speaks, for your platform to help us Black women to know we are not, sis. That makes my day. I am actually Angela, I'll tell you, I started out on my YouTube journey talking to women, and this platform particularly has a lot more men than women.
oh,
Surprise. But I think I'm going to do a sister channel where I'm talking about women's issues and just struggles and how, or steps possibly, that you can use to overcome. I think that's always been a kind of part of my messaging. So I'm kind of figuring that out for the new year.
okay.
And I'm appreciative of Brenda and all of you guys watching live. Rosalind, I see you. Everyone in the chat, all of you watching Team Replay, thank you so much. Like and comment so more people see it. Final words from you about your organization, about your journey, what you want folks to know before we go.
I think I just want to end it or leave it with, you know, there's healing in any mourning that we go through in life, and the it only equivalates to time. You know, I when I lost my husband at 42, I did not know how I was going to ever get past it.
Mm.
Um, the feeling of emptiness and this is all coming full
Especially
circle.
when you have a good man, Lord.
Yeah, I did.
Mm, mm,
But it was a loss nonetheless. Like the
mhm,
breasts were a loss. And
mhm.
some people might say, okay, it was just breast. Yeah, but because of the breast failing me, I had to, and it changed my whole life. The scars are my everyday reminder of how strong I am. But also, I'm frail too. You know what I mean? I'm human. I am human, and I just want to leave with healing, advocacy, loving yourself, knowing you're not alone. And my nonprofit is to help women in our backyard with knowing our truth.
That's what's up, y'all. For all the heroes that walk among us and sheroes as well, I'm just
Yes.
grateful there are people within our community doing the work,
Yes.
enlightening, supporting, paying for people to get the help and the medical attention that they need and maybe can't afford. So I appreciate y'all. Please go visit her, follow her on all social. It's in the chat and it's in the description as well.
Yes.
I want to thank Miss Angela R. Taylor,
Thank you.
Artful Angels. You can check her out, artfulangels.org. And please support if you can.
Yes.
Like, comment, share. And again, visit her. And I appreciate, thank you guys. It's a wonderful show. Thank y'all for being here. And we appreciate, again, check out all her social media, y'all. And I can't wait to highlight your story more. So hopefully we can do it again.
Yes. Thank you,
talk,
sister.
talk a little bit more. Thank you for being here, Miss
Thank you.
Angela. It's been a pleasure. Y'all give it up for her. I will be live again. Thank you so much. This was, again, very enlightening for me. I'll be live again Thursday doing a response, kind of my reaction to Black Panther. Panda. Yeah, let's go. So that will be Thursday's show, y'all. Catch me live. Love you. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you and have a great night.